Good morning, everyone. Thanks once again for joining me on the channel. And guess what's happening? The parts came to fire this engine up, and I'm actually doing that today. But first, I want to introduce you to this new project. Wait till you get a load of this thing. What in the Sam Hill is this? Well, it's going to be the next all-wheel drive, high-powered thing, and we were thinking V8 Mustang. But hang on, let me get it on the ground and we'll look at it. So here you have it. It is a 1972 Volkswagen, not based on a Beetle, mind you. It's based on a Volkswagen bus, you know, the hippie buses. That's basically what the platform and engine for this used to be. And these are what you considered unloved. People do not love these. I don't know why, I think it's cool. Part of what makes it cool is it looks like a Reliant scimitar, and if you're not a European guy, you don't know what that is, but believe me, it kind of looks like this. And also this resembles, to me, in certain small ways, a Volvo P1800, which is an amazing little car. Now this was rear engine like the Volkswagen buses. We're going to make it front engine for sure. But these little cars had a bunch of unique features. One of the things I liked about it right away were these side vents. It reminds me of what's called a Renault Le Car. And the Renault Le Car was like a turbocharged hot hatch from, you know, the late 70s, early 80s, I think. Let me see if I can find a picture of one. So yeah, that reminds me of that. And then there's these little vents in the window with stainless trim around them, which I think is great. And you might notice some of the trim is missing on this car. Well, don't worry. Things like that roof rack, which is going on, and a bunch of the trim inside. So those are just a couple of neat things. Another one of the cool things about this car, obviously the engine used to be in there. It's not going to be anymore. We're going to lower that whole floor down. But I like the hatchback. That part's cool. These are all Volkswagen bus parts, which I guess are worth something. Not to me. There's the logo. And these seats, they're moved all the way forward. I guess people were midgets in the 70s, but I was not. So the seats, we're going to relocate them. We're going to pull them back, and we might not even use these. We might have a modern interior. I don't know. But I guess there's some parts that are worth something in the dash. I don't know. I don't know that I'm even going to bother with any of it. Stuff's so hard to get rid of these days. But this is cool. The way this window does that, that's not something you see. There must have been a design reason or some specific purpose for that. That I think is cool. Another thing you don't often see on old cars are these sunroofs. And you can see up there, it's crank. You can literally crank the thing open, which I'm going to see if that works. The guy said it did. I guess this dash cluster clock is supposed to be special, but I don't know. Not to me, it's not. Yeah, this thing was an automatic. Can you believe that? Most of these old Volkswagens, they were not automatic. I hear the transmissions were no good, but then again, this thing is the size of a shoebox. Definitely going to need to move that seat. I'm trying to figure out how to open the hood. I don't really see where that is, but I'll find it. Oh, well, that was a gas door. So that's not what it is. That won't be there for very long. People are like, oh, these things are great. You don't want to upset them. Mind you, they're all saying that these were unloved, yet everybody's got an opinion about it. They're like, oh, you don't want to move the engine because then there's so much storage. Storage? For who? Not for Americans. This is a tiny little econo box. If we wanted storage, we would take that, or that, or that, or maybe even that, but not this. You're not storing anything in there. What could you fit in there? My tools wouldn't even fit in there. I gotta get this hood open. That little knob is for the gas door, and that little knob, which is severely rusted and will probably break, I've got to grease it up, it opens the bonnet or the hood. So let's see what's under the hood. Nothing, because again, it's a stupid Volkswagen. Sorry if you're a Volkswagen lover, I am not, I never have been. But what this size says to me, if you were to cut this right along here, you get up to about here, and go right straight across. These are the old strut towers, those are out of here. And then, interestingly enough, this is the washer bottle, and do you know what it connects to? It's supposed to connect to the spare tire so that the air pressure in the spare will force that into your windshield. Isn't that ridiculous? I guess that's how they were. But I'd end up cutting a vent in here for the radiator, because I believe I can get a radiator and a V8 engine. I believe. It's crazy to think that you have to have air in your tire to get windshield solvent to come out. But hey, Volkswagens did that. Just to give you some idea of how small that little car actually is, first of all, look at it next to a tiny Grand Cherokee. That's a mid-sized car at best. They called those, they referred to them as luxury Volkswagens, which that's another reason why they didn't sell. But anyways, to give you an idea, this roof rack is 4 foot by 5 foot. And if I put that roof rack, which appears kind of small on a size truck like this, if I were to put it on here, it would go from right here all the way to right here. It would be the entire length of the vehicle. So I kind of like the look of it. I mean, picture it with fat tires and sitting upright and some snarling exhaust, and you know, I think it'd be cool. So at this moment, I need to open it up and get all that stuff out and see what I have. So this is all the nonsense that I got out of this vehicle. Looks like a lot of just like trinket parts, and those are the bows for a headliner. This is trimmed to a hatchback. You got some engine parts. That looks like a Bilstein shock tool. It's very strange. It says Bilstein on it. I don't know what the story is with that, but we got a couple calipers in there. Push rods. It's like a flywheel. A couple of axles. Old shocks. A heater motor. A couple turn signals. This rack I'm using, I'm going to put that roof rack on. A couple cylinder heads. They seem to be okay. They don't look cracked or anything. Bunch of rusty hubcaps. But the thing that I liked most, I found the emblem. So that's the only place on the car that it says that. And the reality is, if I make it a V8 Mustang, it's not going to say that. We'll have a label that says something else. I'm not sure if I'm going to patina this car or single stage spray it. I don't know what I'm going to do. On the matching license plate. Pretty ingenious, these. Rather than like in all the hooks you see everywhere else, this would hook on and then you would pull it. But this one goes backwards. Watch, as you push it, it latches in underneath. That's brilliant, actually. But yeah, that's where the motor would be. Driving the rear wheels. Coil springs down there. All that's coming out. Every bit of this is leaving town. Hopefully I can find somebody that needs some of it. Otherwise it's all going in the garbage. Headliner's okay. Looks like the battery used to be down there. It's got a back seat, but that's coming out. what we'll end up doing is making a bunch of room and then like a parcel shelf or something back there. This little car is starting to grow on me because the more time I spend with it, and I've always said these things have a way of finding me, just like this truck found me. This little thing has found me. And all of the things that I've built for other people, they've found their way to me as well, and it's very cool. But this one, I'm walking around and I'm looking inside, you know, and I've been through it and I vacuumed it out, and I found a piece of paper it was one of those old credit card receipts that did the chunk chunk, you know, and it was one from, like, I didn't see a date, but I gather it's the 70s, and it was a furniture store in Georgia, and it was a woman. So I feel like this car belonged to a woman, and Georgia in the 70s, you know, that's where the B-52s were from. And the reality is, I feel like this car is fun, exciting, and that's probably what drew Jamie and I to this car. There was something about it, you know, and it couldn't just languish there in the storage barn, Southern Ohio, forever. It needed to be pulled out and brought back to life. It was called a 411. I don't know that I'm going to call it a 411 when I'm done with it, but the reality is it's going to be all-wheel drive. I feel like there's a Subaru just waiting to go underneath this thing, and I love those vents, and these vents are even better, and I love the color. Blue, you know. I might leave it patina, but at the same time, I also may have this one of those really nice bright blue colors that just pop. I'm not sure. I do know that I feel like this car came here for a reason, and we're gonna have some fun with it. And wouldn't it be cool to put the roof rack on it and zip this thing in a snowstorm, all-wheel drive, you know, an hour away with bicycles in it? Wouldn't it be cool? Because I feel like that's the kind of life this car led before it got here. Something exciting, something different, something fun to be around. I mean, imagine in the 70s, early 80s, when this car was at its peak, people were laughing and having fun and going somewhere in this quirky little weird car, you know. It was just, that's a good time. And I feel like that's what it's going to be. So yeah, I really like it. It's going to be a challenge. You know, there's a lot of metal work involved, but tomorrow morning when we get up, we're going to look at the potential donor for this thing. And I'm excited, you know. Jamie wants to keep it all original. She would love to have a Volkswagen engine in the back, but the reality is I don't want 40 or 80 horsepower, and I don't want to spend $3,000 to get 200 horsepower out of a Volkswagen. I'm not interested. I don't care. I mean, it's put together wrong. Sure, it's Porsche design with the engine behind the rear axle. Yay, whatever. It's way better to have a front engine, rear wheel drive, or all-wheel drive configuration, especially stick shift. You can really get to getting. So I look forward to how this one's going to turn out. Let's see what happens in the morning. So what in the heck is that? Well, it's the exact same wheelbase. It makes 165 horsepower. It's got a rebuilt engine and a rebuilt transmission with a new clutch, and it's all-wheel drive. So guess what is about to happen with that? As you can see, I lined them up fairly close to each other. I had that one straighter, but my foot slipped off the clutch pedal because there's no pedal pad. It's all just shiny, worn out. And I literally almost backed it right into the garage. Like, I barely missed hitting the garage. So that's where it's going to sit for right now. The wheelbase, though, is identical. It may not look like it from here, but the reality is it's right where it needs to be. All this is going to fit. And all of this, which if you look at it, the most important part is here and there, and that distance. This engine and all this stuff will be mostly where it is. It's going to fit in here. It's going to go between that and that. And then obviously the track width is a bit wider. So if you look at these two cars, that one is considerably wider. And the wheels are probably going to stick out of the bodywork over here somewhere. but I don't care about that because I'll put fender flares on it and it'll look like it has really wide tires, and honestly that's what I'm going for. So let me get to measuring a few things. This particular car had a ton of work done to it, and that's the reason that I chose it as a donor. It's all-wheel drive, makes about 165 horsepower, and it's manual transmission, which makes it super fun to drive. Now this car was really, really cheap, and it came with a bunch of receipts proving the work that was done, and that's why I got it. But this is why it was cheap. Look right there. Check that out. That's what you get up here in this part of the country. Salt. Now granted, this is 21 years old, this car. So it took a long time for that to happen. It's always on the curbside, you know, salt splashing up, whatever, whatever. But that might scare you off, but it doesn't, because wait till you see what I'm going to do with that. Think tubular chassis. Kind of like that, but not quite. The first thing I need to do is get all of that carpet and the dash and everything taken out. And I don't want to cut the roof off until I've connected those to the floor and to each other. Then I can cut the roof off, because the spacing between those two turrets will fit in there, and that's the goal. It's going to be this chassis with that body, but it's unibody, so there's no frame on body construction. It's floor pan with suspension pickup points, and then again floor pan with suspension pickup points. So it's going to be quite a challenge, but I am not worried about it, because hey, at the end of the day, these things were cheap, and if it all goes in the scrapyard, well, we learned a lesson. What not to do then. Let's get started. This thing's going to look so awesome once it gets cool wheels on it. It won't be those, but... So anyway, I got some initial measurements now, and I was hoping that I would be able to keep this structure right there, because that's what the whole car's chassis is based on, or strengthened by. But as it turns out, I'm going to have to cut this here. So this, that whole side section all the way back has got to be removed, because the width between here and here ends up right there. So this is definitely wider, and I knew that. I was hoping to get away with a little bit less fabrication, but it doesn't look like there's going to be less. It looks like there's going to be more. But at least now I know what I'm in for, and I need a lot of steel tubing, and it'll be very, very cool. It'll be rigid and fast and light. But I gotta first solve that broken strut tower. Let me do that now. I took the strut off. I got a piece of wood wedged in there because it's pushing the suspension down right now. Because using this one as a measurement from key points, I located this one in the correct spot based off the same measurements. And then that's about as close as it needs to be. But yeah, it's right there. And then what I'll do is build a cage around it. It'll go from there to the floor, from there to the floor. There'll be another one going out. Same with this side. It'll look like you know, a bunch of tubes holding those, capturing those. But right now I'm out of steel, so let me go run get some. That should only take mere seconds on the internet. An interesting development is these wheels. Now, the rubber is not tall enough for me, but they're really good mud and snow tires. So we're gonna leave those, but effectively, that's the look. Look at that, that's a bunch of Subaru body. So what I did was I bought a bunch of tubing, and I welded, you remember the one strut tower that was gone? So that's what I did. I basically triangulated the entire rear suspension and tied it to the floor in 6 places. I'm ready to drop it on the ground right now and jump up and down on it. And I know they're gonna work. Everything's fine. It's, yeah, it's all good. We'll end up trimming it all real close so it fits under that body. That's the goal. But see, that was so rusty that I had to do this in order to pull this out. Now I'm gonna cut the top off right now. Then I'm gonna put a seat in it and I'm gonna drive it. Alright, I've got suspension and I put a seat in it and I think it will move. It does in fact run. I gotta clean all this up and I'll get right back to this. I'm about done for today. There's gonna be, tomorrow if it's not raining, I'm gonna do donuts in that outside in the backyard. Clean enough for now. Let me get this thing back in here. Rebuilt trans, rebuilt clutch, drive shafts. This thing's like butter. That's stupid. Whatever's rattling, that's coming off. Actually, it runs great.
And even more than amazing, it's hilarious. When it weighs what this now weighs, driving it around in the grass with these smooth tires, the thing was a hoot. Just wait till we get the aggressive tread pattern on there. Think Lancia Martini, think Delta Integrale, think European colorways and aggressive tires with lights. These were very pedestrian in their day, and they were nice, sure, but they wouldn't get out of their own way. Can you imagine? Even the police used them. And I know you couldn't catch anything besides a cold because the heating system was not very good. Now the heating system in what we have today isn't very good, but we're going to make sure that that all works when we put this car together. I'm super excited about it. I can't wait for you to see it all. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Come on back. Check out all the new updates on the channel. We've got the Bronco, we've got the Harrow Hauler, we've got this truck coming, and there's also another surprise in the works. So stand by. Thanks. I'll see you soon.